when you have a negative underneath the radical, you can simplify it. Before this class, you thought it wasn't possible. But the square root of -1 is I, which stands for imaginary number. So on all of these problems, what you do is first bring out the negative as the letter I, and then simplify the number left over. So problem number 1, 4i. Because the negative comes out as the I, and square root of 16 is 4. So the next problem, I can simplify the square root of 81, and I bring out the negative as an I. The next problem, 45, you need to break it down into prime numbers. 3 times 3 times 5. The negative will come out as an I. And the same thing for problem number 4. Break it down into prime numbers. The other way to think about it is what perfect square could break it down. The next part we're going to work on are complex numbers, where you have a real number and an imaginary number. Now on this screen it does show you a plus sign, but it could be a subtraction sign. We're going to look at adding and subtracting our complex numbers. You're really going to kind of do what we did with our polynomials. You kind of treat the I like a variable, combine any of your like terms. You're always going to put your real number first, you're going to put the imaginary number second. Real numbers go first, and then your imaginary numbers go second. Remember, when you're adding, you just drop the parentheses and combine like terms. Copy this example down. For subtraction, we must distribute the negative first, then we're going to combine like terms, and then write your answer in standard form. Real number goes first, the imaginary number goes second. Copy this example down. For subtraction, we distribute the negative. We're going to combine like terms, and then write our answer in standard form. Your real number goes first, imaginary number goes second. Copy this example down. This one you have to work with order of operations. The first thing we need to do is distribute the negative. Nothing happens to the negative 5i. You just bring that straight down. And out front, the 9, nothing happens to it either. Combine your like terms and write your answer in standard form. For multiplying your complex numbers, it's very similar to what we did for multiplying polynomials. We're going to distribute out, and anything that has a power higher than 1 for your I, you have to change. Which leads us to, well, if it is higher than a power of 1, we're going to look at maybe running into an I squared. And you need to know that I squared is the same thing as negative 1. Make sure you write this down. It's very important. Anytime we come across an I squared, we're going to have to replace it with parentheses and a negative 1. Copy this one down. Distribute the negative I. So this one is like I times I is I squared. Just like an x times x is x squared. There we have an I squared highlighted. Now replace that with parentheses and a negative 1. Watch out when you rewrite this one. This negative in front of the I squared needs to be brought down. Now we've got to take care of what happens when you have a double negative. It changes that negative 1 to a positive 1, and it's a real number, so it goes first. Imaginary number goes second. Copy this one down. We're going to have to distribute twice. We're going to distribute the 2 to each term, and then distribute the positive 3i to both terms. On this step, we have a couple of things we need to clean up. We need to combine the like terms, and we also need to replace that I squared with a parentheses negative 1. Now simplify again. Negative 6 times negative 1, that can be simplified to positive 6. And now combine your like terms. Write your answer in standard form. The real number goes first, the imaginary number goes second. Copy this example down. You're going to distribute the negative 3 to each term and distribute the positive I to each term. On this step, you have two things to clean up. You can combine your like terms, and you need to change that I squared to a parentheses negative 1. Now simplify 5 times negative 1. combine your like terms, and write your answer in standard form. Dividing complex numbers. In order to divide your complex numbers, you need to know about a conjugate. For example, if 2 minus 4i, they're asking you to find the conjugate, all you have to do is change the sign of the number in between. In dividing complex numbers, you must multiply the top and the bottom of the fraction by the conjugate of the denominator. You're going to simplify all those powers of I that are higher than a first power, combine your like terms, and then make sure your answer is in standard. So the first thing you need to do is know where the denominator is, which is down the bottom, 2 minus 4i. What's the conjugate of 2 minus 4i? Earlier we said all you have to do is change the sign. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by 2 plus 4i. Give yourself plenty of space to work this problem out. You're going to multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. You have a lot of terms to work with. We're going to combine our like terms and take care of that I squared by replacing it with parentheses negative 1. We have the same thing to take care of in the denominator. You can clean up the top and the bottom one more step by multiplying the 16s times those negative 1. Now this step looks like you're done with the problem, but not quite. What I would like for you to do is I call it rip it apart and simplify. Each term on top can be written as over the 20. Now you can individually simplify this problem so that your real number out front is simplified and the imaginary number that's second is also simplified. Your final answer would look like this: negative 1/2 plus I.